Day 166, Screenwriter's Journey. Today in real life is February 20th. This is January 8th edition, and this will be going up on YouTube maybe late February. So, whatever, doesn't matter. So I've gone back to the beginning of this scene where Holly and Hogan comes and finds Holly. And as you recall yesterday, I had some cutesy dialogue that I predicted correctly that I would probably have to get rid of. And I talked about going through and paring things down and removing extraneous information. And sometimes I talked about doing that on a final pass, but oftentimes I'll just go through literally the next day and say, all right, let's just start at that scene that I was working on. And then you've got a slightly different perspective. You've got objectivity to some degree. And so you can go back in and make some changes. Or you could, sometimes you go, wow, I really nailed that, which is sweet. Recover. And I'm not saying the second time through is the charm or the third or the fourth. Here I debated about doing an actual flashback when Hogan said, what's the last thing you remember? And, it's easy enough just to actually do the flashback, but then I'm thinking, could you also just do it with Holly's head snapping back, reliving the impact as I write there? And then we get into this thing where her nose, even though he punched her right in the nose, basically knocked her out or rendered her unconscious. I don't know if that's the same thing. If a boxer gets knocked out, technically, I don't know. I'd have to think about that. Because you could say he won by knockout, but that doesn't mean the guy's unconscious. But if he's out like a light or whatever, then I guess he could be. Or these days she could be. So I did a little stuff on that, and then I was sort of debating how fast would Luke and Abby come back from the river, the creek where they're fishing, or would they stay there? So obviously at this point I've got them coming back, and we'll see how this works out. I do like that they come in and Abby says, where's Lexi? And at the same time, Luke says, where's Jake? And you can literally imagine them saying that on top of each other. And now this is kind of a story problem of what would they do, which is kind of a big story problem. They don't know what happened. How are they going to get a clue? Literally, get a clue. How are they going to know anything, and how are they going to be able to trail them? How are they going to be able to track them? And then, of course, we get the idea of the helicopter, which is going to not save the day, but be a big crutch, you might say. All right, let's see here. They see a look at. She came in alone. All I heard was her ear. Was a car driving away? She told me she went into strength and attraction itself, which is a clever line. Sometimes I do that. Did you see I saved it under a -2 or a _2 when I'm going to make like a fairly major change, but I want to keep the previous version just in case it's way wrong. Then see, like right there, I left them at the river. They're fine. You know that for a fact. So I completely changed because I think I thought when they came in to the cabin, it just put me in a box somehow. And I wanted them kind of to have separate scenes for logistic reasons, for story reasons. And then another kind of interesting thing is when you get into a thing that's getting kind of hairy and dangerous and, they've been kidnapped, they don't know where they are. And then you cut to a scene where we've got Luke saying, that's it, we're switching poles because Abby has got all these fish. Luke's got nothing. So it's obviously a funny thing. But then the next thing we know, Holly has come to find out, make sure they're safe. And then the problem is she immediately going to tell them what happened, or are they going to assume, and Holly's not going to tell them, that Holly left them there and everything's fine. But when she says, thank God, obviously that is a big red flag to them. And, there's nothing like I need you to stay calm to get people excited, which of course Abby does. Is Hogan with her? I guess so. I'm sorry, I came in alone. All I heard is this distraction itself. You haven't told anyone else. What about the helicopter? So Luke remembers the helicopter. I so cleverly dropped in the fact that they heard a helicopter go over and it disturbed the fish. So that kind of works out in two ways, because it's an immediate payoff and yet it's a foreshadowing of something else. So now, again, this is a story / kind of logistics problem. I get into the whole thing of and then I get hung up. Well, this is a real place, so I got to go out to Google Maps and find out where a helicopter could land. Or, you get into what do you have to do to take off and land a helicopter legally and logistically, and how much sound does it make? How far away could it be? And when would you hear it? And so you try to obviously ground it in realism, but at the same time, you don't want to be tied down to, in this case, geography or exact, I've got to make this happen, because the story's always got to come first. So I'm trying to work that out, and this is kind of my first shot at it. I'm approaching the end of this day, so let's see what happens tomorrow.